just to give you guys an idea, we work with folks across sort of the spectrum of businesses, but with a special concentration in the food space through our Sugar Strategist brand on the business side of the business. So we're not the folks that are going to tell you how to make a better royal icing or how to flood your cookies or that piece. But we are there to help you figure out how to kind of take the next step with your business. And that could be, the next step could be that you're hobbyists and you're looking to take it to be a business, or that you've started a business and you're looking to hire your first person or move to a commercial kitchen or whatever the steps may be. And so the reason that's the space we concentrate in, my background personally is in the business space. I've started a number of companies, sold a couple of them. A couple of them are still ongoing companies. I started a software company about 15 years ago that's going to do, $300 million of revenue this year. So I've got a lot of experience in doing that sort of thing. And that's actually how I met Monica. Monica at the time had a chocolate business. So she was manufacturing chocolate, and on the front of her space had a retail coffee shop and bakery. And so she has had the brick and mortar business in this space. And we met when she had the opportunity to sell her business. And together we successfully sold her business. And that's actually how we ended up joining forces to start this company and this venture. Monica, I don't know if you want to kind of jump in there.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be on here. I love meeting new people from all over. We do work with clients all over the country. So we are based in Virginia, but we do have clients elsewhere. So don't feel like you can't reach out. We do help a lot of people with their state laws as well. Lewis will often help people set up their businesses, their registrations, and all that kind of stuff. But as you mentioned, my background is in dessert development, chocolate manufacturing, and operations, as well as marketing. I studied marketing in school, so I have a big passion for business. The reason why edible ink printing is such a big passion of mine is because I made a lot of money off edible ink printed custom treats, right? So I did chocolate covered Oreos, Rice Krispies, graham crackers, cookies, and that sort of thing. And I really focused on the corporate market. And so I started online. I understand a lot of what a lot of you are dealing with as a one-man show, trying to, navigate all areas of the business, not sure how to get help, what to get help for. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you start selling cookies to save up some money to then invest in equipment? Or do you invest in equipment and other things and then start making money that way? So those are all things that we can talk about as well. As Lewis mentioned, I had a store. My goal, so I had my business for about 8 years online, 6 to 8 years online. And then I wanted to go bigger because I needed my own manufacturing space. I was doing the commercial kitchen thing. I also did the in-home thing. And when I built that store, because of the size of the investment, my goal was to sell it in 10 years. And so at year 6.5 is when Lewis and I crossed paths and I had an opportunity to sell it early. And then in that whole conversation, we realized how much our skills complement each other. And I really wished I would have met somebody like Lewis. And as Debbie mentioned, it just really helps when you meet somebody that really understands your business and how you could improve or could have improved or how you can grow and things I didn't see on my own. And so I really wanted to help people by starting our Moloko parent company and then Sugar Strategists as a sub brand. I really wanted to help people that were just like me. Better understand marketing, better understand strategy, better understand costing and pricing. We help a lot of clients with finding better suppliers, improving their packaging. I do have some clients that want to know how to improve their recipes, their offerings, their flavors, and things like that. Because I did do dessert manufacturing for cookies, cakes, and muffins on a national scale before I started my chocolate business. So if anybody has any questions, literally from beginning to end of a business, if you're a one-man show, you're like most of us. We're happy to help in any capacity.
So I do see that there's a comment that was where a question was asked. I hope I'm going to pronounce this correctly. I hope it's Lisa. The question was, I would like to know how to reach out to businesses for logo cookies. There it is. But not sure how to do that. I'm not able to drive or have a lot of interaction. My goal with the Big Blue is to do more logos. So you've come to the right place, as Monica just mentioned. Was the bread and butter of her business. I'll start with a couple of quick, just kind of general tips, and then she can obviously get into more specifics there. So um, there are a couple of big things where in the corporate space that are going to be extremely important to those buyers specifically. And a big one is going to be professionalism, right? So there are things that you're going to want to do to get into that space. And some of them are simple. So, for instance, if you're using a Gmail address or a Yahoo address or something like that, you're going to want to move to an address that is associated with a domain that you own. So, at my bake shop or whatever your business domain may be. You're also going to want to have a website. So in the corporate space, amazingly, the statistics still show that between 30 and 40%, depending on the platform, of corporate networks block social media sites. So if you're relying on your Facebook page as your primary place that people go, you're losing out a very big part of the corporate market. There's just quite literally 30 to 40% of the market that can't go to Facebook from their work computers. I do a lot of work in the financial sector, and there are a lot of banks that are prohibited from doing business with people that use Gmail accounts or those sorts of things. It's seen as a sign that it is a less than reliable business or even fraud in a lot of cases. So not having that email address will eliminate a lot of potential customers as well. So, there's a couple of things like that. Now, you've already taken a huge step with having a blue. Because the other big thing is going to be accuracy when you're working with customer logos, right? If their logo has a lot of black in it, they want that black to be black and not purple or dark green or whatever the case is, right? So fidelity on the logo is going to be a huge piece of the equation as well. Monica, do you want to talk about where you kind of meet those folks and the types of groups and those sorts of things?
Yeah, so for those of you that can get out, obviously there's a lot of business networking groups, there's chamber events, there's anywhere where corporate people are going to be, right? So going back to what Lewis said about professionalism, if we're putting our Gmail account, email, or our Yahoo on our business card, you're going to need to upgrade. I personally don't take those types of businesses seriously, as corporate people often don't, right? And your work can be phenomenal, but you have to think about what you're doing with your business card, and that's making a first impression. And you're only going to get that opportunity once. So if you hand me a business card and now you're telling me that you don't have a website, I have to go to I'm probably going to opt out and find somebody else, right? So Donna had asked with another great question about whether or not social media is great for promoting, whether or not your website is better. Do you even need a website? The answer is yes. You absolutely, without hesitation, need a website, okay? The reason for that is that that's where you're going to really want to funnel all of your communication. I'm sure there's a lot of people, and feel free to chime in the comments, because I see this all the time, is a bunch of screenshots from a bunch of text messages or a bunch of Facebook messages, and you're getting messages from your Instagram, your Facebook, your email, your text messages, and anywhere people can find you, right? That is not an efficient way to operate, especially as a one-man show, okay? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to have a website. And even if you have the most basic website, and I mean yourcompany.com, not bakeseed.com/yourcompany, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking about your own domain. You're going to want to have an email at that domain, and then you're going to want to have your beautiful pictures of the amazing printed products that you offer, your pricing, a little bit about yourself, ways people can contact you, and if you're able to, put an order form, depending on your laws, put an order form. If it needs to be considered an inquiry form, use an inquiry form and start gathering information. If you don't have a website, what that also tells me is that you're not doing any email marketing. Corporate people are going to want email marketing. They're not going to be looking for your Facebook post or necessarily your Facebook ad or Instagram and things like that. Now, obviously, Facebook is a great tool, and it is certainly a way to reach people in your community. But if the question is really about corporate, you're really going to want to take a second to invest in your website, even if it's a few pages. You don't need to have a ton of things, but it's also great for a couple other things. One is those frequently asked questions. I'm sure you're repeating yourself constantly. What do you have? How many? What flavor does it come in? What size is it? How do I order? When do I pay? Et cetera, et cetera. And so an FAQ section can answer a lot of those questions. So rather than going back and forth with somebody that's inquiring, you can just send them right there. The other thing is by sending them there, you're also introducing them to a lot more information. And then with an order form, you're able to gather some information. A lot of the basic stuff that you're, again, asking over and over again. Their name. What are they looking for? When do they need it by? Is there a special occasion? Is there a special theme or color or something like that? So an order form is already going to give you a starting point. So that way, when you do reach out to them, you'll be able to follow up already having a good amount of information so that you can finalize the order as opposed to be communicating, messages back and forth. So hopefully that helps answer some questions.
So as to some of the follow-ups that have kind of come up as we've been talking here, I do have a website, but a Gmail account, so I'll change that. That's great. I've heard people go and give samples, but since I'm not able to do that, how do I get my business known to the businesses? I mean, at that point, it becomes you got to do the work, right? The elbow grease here. That could be looking at businesses in your area. Finding the owners if they're smaller businesses, the head of HR or related roles if they're not, finding them through Google searches or press releases they've done or profiles on their websites and reaching out to them individually with a message. It could be around a particular time of year. It's employee, hey, Mary, it's Employee Appreciation Day. I'd love to be part of your celebration. I produce cookies with your logo on them. They're both delicious treats and a great way to provide a branded celebration to your employees. Love to talk about providing a tray, working with you for a tray of cookies at your next corporate celebration, right? Whatever the email may be, you might have to send 10 or 100 or 200 to start building that business. But that is certainly one way to reach out.
And the other thing is LinkedIn. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of LinkedIn.
Right.
LinkedIn is the Facebook of corporate, right? So start with a LinkedIn if you don't have one. Start building your network. Find out who you're going to start following on there. A lot of the people that are ordering the cookies are the office manager, the executive assistant, the marketing manager, the HR department. I used to do gifts for new hires and all kinds of stuff. They're always looking for branded stuff. So if you're not using LinkedIn, make sure that you have a LinkedIn. Make sure that your headshot is professional. Make sure that your background is updated. Put a little bio about yourself. Even if, a lot of people come from being a stay-at-home mom or whatever, and that's totally fine. Use that opportunity for the bio to explain kind of a little bit more about your business and just come across professionally. So again, it goes back to making that professional impression. If you look like a hobbyist, that's how they're going to take you. That's how you're presenting yourself. And you have to remember that if somebody hasn't had your treats before, they are simply going off of visuals. If you don't have strong photography, learn how to take photographs. There's a lot of great videos and a lot of great tutorials, both on social media, YouTube, etc., that can teach you about improving your lighting. There's a lot of apps now, especially, that'll help you edit a photo. Sometimes less is more, right? So improve your photography, use the email marketing as a tool, and have great photos in your email marketing.
There's a specific question around LinkedIn, and then I'll come back to Dr. Susie's question. But LinkedIn marketing, if you're doing sponsored on LinkedIn, you can target it very much like you can on Facebook or Instagram, where you indicate you only want people between this age and this age. LinkedIn adds a whole bunch of additional features like certain titles or departments or things like that. You can specify if you're doing that. Now, obviously, if you're just creating a profile in general, that profile is available to anyone. But as a lot of folks start or even operate long-term as cottage bakers and are limited to within their states, really where you can target that is when you're doing promoted posts or ads on any of the networks. Otherwise, it's kind of open to everywhere, which is another reason that sort of plain social media isn't a great indicator, right? I can have 10,000 followers, but if 9,900 of those are outside of my state and I'm a cottage baker, they're not really doing me any good from a business perspective. They might be getting me a lot of likes, but at the end of the day, 100 out of those 10,000 people are actually potential customers. And so those numbers can be hard to gauge from that perspective. As to Dr. Susie's question about how often you should do email marketing, and then how do you get your list going? Okay, so first, from how often should you do email marketing? I think that question is more about having something to say, right? So there's not you need to do it every 2 weeks or every month or more often than every month. But what you don't want to do is just send marketing for the sake of sending marketing. You want to have something to say in that email marketing. I'm announcing a special. Valentine's Day is coming up. Have you gotten your Valentine's Day treats? Employee Appreciation Day is coming up. Have you gotten or have you planned your catering? Whatever it may be, you should have a trigger reason for the marketing, which then creates a call to action for the people you're marketing to, right? So Valentine's Day, get your orders in by the 2nd to have them on the 14th. It's Employee Appreciation Day. Don't forget, you need to order at least 7 days in advance, right? You've got a call to action around a specific thing going on, a sale, a launch of a new product, whatever it might be, but that you have a message to communicate with. So we always tell people, communicate as often as you have something to communicate, but not more often than that. And then finally, how do you build a list? Lots of ways, right? Have a sign up. If you got a website, have a sign up for my newsletter box on there. Add your email address here to hear about my specials. If you do farmers markets or those sorts of things, have a sign up list at your booth that says, sign up here to learn about where I'll be or hear about my latest products, and collect email addresses that way. Have a fishbowl that people can drop a business card in if you're at a more business oriented event. As people place orders, make sure that even if you're texting them or communicating with them on Facebook Messenger, that you've gotten their email address so that you can add them to your database of people that have ordered from you before. There's lots of ways to sort of capture contact information. Monica, I don't know if there's anything else you want
Yeah,
to
I
add
mean,
to
you'd be
that.
surprised how many people you come in contact with on a weekly basis. And
Yep.
as Lewis mentioned, there's a lot of different opportunities to be capturing that. One thing to just make sure is that people are actually signing up for it, right? You don't want to just be collecting emails from wherever you can find and just start sending emails out to random people. You want to make sure that these people are actually interested in what you have to say, or you're wasting your time as well,
Right.
right? And also, it's illegal. So let's not do that.
Yeah.
So when you do take people's email addresses, just ask if they want to be signed up for it. But you also could do a giveaway. If you're at a farmer's market and you have a table, not all farmer's market people are bringing a business card, for example. But if you do an expo or an event, like a wedding event, and sometimes people have a business card, or you create little slips of paper and people put their name and email address on there, you have a giveaway. And if you're doing, printed stuff, just give away a dozen printed things to an office or something. It's a great way to collect information. It's a great way for people to try your product. It's not too much of an investment. But again, it goes back to just asking, right? Start small. You don't have to be sending emails to 100 people to start. You can be sending emails to 25 people that express that they're interested, right? But just make sure that the information, like Lewis said, is relevant, and not just throwing information out there just to throw out information. And keep an eye on what your statistics look like. Are people clicking the button? Are they opening it, right? What is your open rate? Pay attention to what those analytics are so that you can improve and use that information to improve over time.
Okay, so there are no questions right this second that have come up. For those of you that are going to CookieCon next week, as I mentioned, we're excited to be there. Debbie and the Icing Images teams are going to be doing demos of printing on all kinds of interesting items at the show. We're going to be obviously demoing round cookies, different shaped cookies, but also things like marshmallows and crackers for making s'mores, on tortillas, to do some really interesting, print something interesting before you wrap up your burrito, and so on. I think we got Susie's question, Debbie.
Oh, okay.
and going to be printing on all kinds of interesting things. I think we've got Mentos one day, M&Ms another day, all kinds of cool things there. So if you're there, make sure you stop by the booth. If you haven't seen the promotion already, it's been in a couple of newsletters and posts by Icing Images. But if you sign up to come and get a blue demo, if you're not already a blue owner, there's a giveaway. Thank you, Monica, for adding that link in there. There is a giveaway at the show, so there's going to be a nice big a basket of free products and an hour with us as well, if that's enticing at all. Yeah, come on by the booth. We're excited to meet folks. Hey, Amber, how you doing? Amber's one of our favorite locals where we are. Good to see you, Amber. Thanks for joining us. If anybody wants to know how to hustle and build a customer base, Amber is the model to follow. She is in every Facebook group. She responds to people asking for product. She shares pictures of her beautiful work. She works with local charities, with other local bakers, to cooperate on things, with local caterers, to work with them. She's a fantastic model for a way to grow your business for those of you that don't know her.
What's her website?
So she's Lucy Q.
She doesn't have a website.
Yeah, she's Lucy Q on
she works extra
on Facebook.
hard on socials because she doesn't have a website.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So there
she works a full-time job. This woman makes 500 cakes a year, plus other treats and sweets and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
Feel free to drop some information in the chat there, Amber. Yeah, she's a rock star. When she says she hustles, she's literally the person that gets 3 hours of sleep, maybe takes a nap. But when somebody says, "Can I have a cake in 5 hours?" she's like, "Yes." So, and she does a great job. She does a great job.
Yeah, it'd be interesting for everyone to see it as well. Thank you, Amber, for sharing your information. One thing we are going to do also that's a little bit different at CookieCon is Susan Trianos is going to be showing some of her packaging that she actually uses with her blue and her cookie cards, and so we're kind of excited about that.
Yeah, packaging is really important. You guys have to remember that you're presenting the product to the customer. And so we talked about first impressions before, being your business card, shaking of the hand, sharing pictures, whether it's on social media, your website, etc. How you present the product is going to be really important, because if the customer's happy the first time, you're going to want to make sure that you capture that client for a long time. One thing that Louis and I talk to a lot of people about is your customer acquisition cost, and that is the cost of acquiring a new customer. How much effort, time, and energy and resources do you have to put in to get that next customer? So just remember that as you're handling each customer with care, that's the customer you're trying to keep. And the more customers that you can keep, the less customers you have to go out and get, right? Obviously, some are going to fall off. Some are only going to buy from you once in a while. Some are going to splurge because maybe your price point is a little bit higher. And cookies aren't cheap, let's be honest, the amount of labor on some of these, but hopefully you're using the machine to optimize some of that speed and whatnot. And you can decorate on top of them and all kinds of stuff. But so just make sure, like packaging, bows, product presentation, etc. If you're doing logos or images, please make sure that they're centered and straight. That's a big one that we see. And the colors being accurate is also really important. Yep. It sounds obvious. But Louis and I have bought a lot of competitive products out there, and having been in the industry, I've seen a lot. There's a lot of people that are putting out really mediocre work, and we would just never buy from them. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So Amber asked a question about C-Value doing pop buys like retailers, like realtors do, as far as customer acquisition and or retention. Monica, do you have thoughts on that? Or
yeah, so realtors can be good. You have to think about what they're buying your products for, right? So there's a few different reasons a realtor is going to buy from you. And I had a few realtor clients. One is an open house. They're buying a bunch of product. They're going to put it on a table or an Oreo 2-pack. And then people are going to take that product. Are you shaking your head?
That wasn't quite the question. But
the value of pop-ups like realtors do.
Like realtors do, pop buys.
Pop-ups. Pop-ups, like a pop-up stand.
Well, Amber, I'm assuming you're talking about like stopping into businesses, or are you talking about pop-ups,
No,
or are you talking about doing business with realtors?
it's almost like at a farmer's market where they have a bunch of people who have their own stands.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they're calling pop-ups. And there's
Um,
lots of people around here who do that.
Yeah. So let's talk about actually. So since we have time and we don't have a ton of questions here, let's talk about all the possibilities here. So Monica started down the road of working with realtors, and to her point, they can be great potential.
I wouldn't say that's where I place my focus.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't focus on them, but
They're
you
not
know,
buying enough.
yeah.
I'm not going for one transaction a month, so it depends on the realtor, right? If you're living in an area where it's, you know, really popular, moving and shaking, like in the Washington metropolitan area, then yeah, maybe.
Right.
But if you're in a smaller town, which a lot of people are, then maybe not.
Yep. And so to Amber's question, which I think I was my interpretation of the question, and she seems to have confirmed,
right. Yeah.
is pop buys, right? So realtors will stop by and leave cards in people's doors and that sort of thing, right? I think that it depends, Amber, right? I don't think it works real well to stop in a business and give a box of cookies or cupcakes to the receptionist and hope they make it to the right person. Half the time they're going to get eaten by the receptionist and his or her friends and never make it to a decision maker. Now, I don't have any objection if you know who the right contact is. And maybe that's not even a pop by, that's putting it in a box, mailing it to their attention. If the product that you're making can be transported that way. With a personal note, I've done that before, not in this business, but with other businesses where I purposely FedEx something because a FedEx gets attention when it shows up on someone's desk. So that can be a great way to get to a decision maker that for somewhere where you think there is a large potential audience. But my experience when you leave things with receptionists is they rarely make it to the right decision maker. Monica, do you want to?
Yeah, so I'm always thinking a little bit bigger than just one at a time, right? I think about my time and how long it takes to drop one off, to drive, to park, to go in, to say hi, to leave something behind. If you're looking to target realtors meet at the realtor's office like every month. And every realtor's office often does this, right? They have sort of like a team meeting. Sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's in person. Post COVID, I think there's a lot more people that do it virtually. But that's where I want to be. I want to get invited to those meetings, which I've done. And I bring all my treats to the meeting, either platters out for people to try my products, or I usually I was making a 2-pack of Oreos because I had Oreos with photos on them. I put the logo of the place that I was going and I punched a hole in my business card. And on the elastic loop of the Oreo 2-pack, I dropped those off and I put one in everyone's seat so that everyone that attended the meeting now has my product, right? So if I'm trying to go to a realtor's office, that's what I would do. If I'm trying to go to a corporate office, there's a lot of luncheons that people are partaking in. And I would find out when they're doing a luncheon to drop the stuff off. To just do it on a random day, if you have extras because you just did a big order and let's say it was like an odd number or something like that, and so you have like an extra set of cupcakes or Oreos or whatever, and you have somebody that's been a prospector that was going to order, but maybe they ran out of time so they didn't get a chance to order, then I would reach out to that person specifically and say, hey, I'm going to be in your area. If you had a few minutes, I was going to drop these off for you. I know you mentioned you like cupcakes or whatever, and then drop them off. But would I just go by random places and drop things off? That's not worth the time versus the return, in my opinion. I would try and organize to be somewhere where more people are going to be, because you have to remember in this industry, you're not only getting the corporate stuff, but you're getting the personal stuff as well, right? So everyone that's in an office has a significant other or kids or is a PTA member or, and there's a lot of opportunities that they may be able to get your products as well. So I would make those a little bit more calculated than I would random.
Yeah. And Dr. Susie brings up a great point. Event planners, wedding planners, depending on what specific product you're selling, can be great contacts, right? So a wedding planner, if you make wedding cakes, who can introduce you to all of their wedding planning clients or put you on a list of these are the cake makers we recommend, can be a great source of business. An event planner that does a lot of corporate event planning can be a great source of business. And all of these things are going to rely on you, your professionalism, and your reliability. A corporate event planner who gets burned once, and you will never hear from them again, right? These are the places where it's incredibly important because their value is that repeated business. So it's a place where you have to concentrate on, perfect is, nobody's perfect, but as close to that as you can get. It's a lot less forgiving than a mom buying for a 8-year-old's birthday party or that sort of thing. So just something to keep in mind there. I'm going to tackle one other quick question here that's related, and then I'll jump back to the question about LLCs there. So there was a question about hospitals. Esther, I'm not sure as far as what the goal there would be. Are we talking about trying to get into the gift shop of the hospital, or what exactly? Hospitals are a little strange. Hospital gift shops are also a little strange. They're often run by unrelated nonprofits or foundations, and that sort of thing. They can be challenging. And from what I have found, because they can't really anticipate demand, they're generally selling very shelf stable products and those sorts of things. So fresh baked items can be difficult with them. But Monica, I don't know on hospitals if you have any
the
other
only thing that
thoughts.
comes to mind for hospitals is I used to get a lot of pharmaceutical salespeople coming to my store. Pharmaceutical salespeople are looking to get in front of doctors to show them new medicines, new equipment, new processes, new things. And they often bring by treats and sweets and things of that nature. So if you can get in with pharmaceutical sales, that one person can keep you really busy, because I'd have one person come into my store and she'd buy enough for like 4 different locations that she was going to bounce from. As far as hospitals go, I don't know who the buyer is that we're targeting here. So I can't really speak to that. I don't have any experience with a buyer in that sense.
Right. So let's jump back to the question about LLCs there. So I do custom orders, but I also teach classes. Should I have a separate LLC for each? In general, that's not necessary. You may want to have a separate DBA for each, right? But that can be under one LLC, right? So I can have whatever, my Corp LLC, but be operating under, baking classes, exciting baking classes as my one brand, and my custom treats as the other brand, right? But from a business perspective, separation, it's not really necessary to legally separate those businesses. There's rarely a good business reason to do that. So my recommendation, again, with very little information here, right? But my general recommendation in that case would be that it's a single LLC with multiple DBAs and potentially brands for addressing the two markets, but with a single LLC above it. Esther provided a little more context saying nursing stations. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard market, right? Because who's buying for them? Are they buying for themselves? Are you hoping that patients will want to get things for the nurses that treated them well? I just think it's too ad hoc of a demand pattern to try to target that. If you have a website and on your website is one of your products, you might want to have a product that says, say thank you to your favorite nurse, and you've got some cookies that are pre-designed with a template, that's got a picture of a nurse's hat on it or something like that. Sure, but I don't think it's something that from a scalability is necessarily a great thing to kind of be out there and out in front. Monica, any sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think you want to think about, again, where there's so many different options out there.
Yeah.
Start with the bigger ones first, where the bigger opportunities are.
Right.
And I think Lewis brought up a great suggestion. You're able to print anything and everything. Set a couple of standard things that you can offer in that category. and see how well they do and promote them. And if there's a market for it, then ride that wave and follow that market and those demands. Um, but I don't have enough experience with that being a successful thing, so I can't really speak to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Sharita asked or said that yes, this year I've been working on getting on preferred vendor lists. It's a great tactic, right? Being on a preferred vendor list for a wedding venue or for an event planner or whatever the case is. We were just working on this with one of our customers, in fact, is a great tactic. Just be careful that, we've seen, I'm going to call it less than reputable organizations sometimes trying to get you to pay to be on preferred vendor lists or that sort of thing. We've seen some that demand like large cuts of your revenue in order to be on the preferred venue list. Just make sure that you don't. It's easy to get excited by these offers. Just make sure that you're really thinking about them from a business perspective when those come along, if they're demanding some sort of fee or revenue cut or something like that to be on their list, what they bring to the table versus what they're asking for. And Crystal's Bake Shop asked, what was the process to get the ball rolling?
I have a lot to say about that one.
Yeah, so go ahead, Monica. This is definitely your area of expertise.
Okay, so some people want to put the cart before the horse. And if you're willing to work twice as hard to get an order, then I can see how you would do that. And what I mean by that is, and I see this, we work with a lot of different industries, not just in the food industry, but just in the food industry under the Sugar Strategists brand. So I see this the most in the baking industry. And what I mean by that is I'm going to start making something and then I'm going to sell it. And then I'm going to save money after I sell things to then invest in my business. In no other real industries do people really start selling products before they say, oh, I should get insurance. Oh, I'm going to start an LLC. Oh, I need a company name. Or I've been selling cookies for 6 months and I don't have a logo yet, right? So I think people get excited about selling things and being able to have this other opportunity for income before they really get their ducks in a row. And I think the more successful entrepreneurs start the other way around. I'll use myself as an example. I had a full-time job, which many of us do. Some of us don't. So if you don't, I can understand how you would go this route. But for those of you that even have a part-time job or don't have a job and could get a part-time job, what I think you should do is you should save money first and then build the platform for the pyramid, right? You have to build that foundation first. And what I mean by that foundation, I mean your logo, your website domain, building a website, even if it's just a page or something like that, or even a digital order form at the very least, having a professional email account, figuring out, are people calling your cell phone? Are you going to use a Google Voice number or whatever the case may be? Build the business foundational stuff. How are you costing your products? What is your menu going to be? Do you even have a viable business? Like, is there a market for what you're trying to sell in the area that you're in, right? Answering all those questions before you actually go to market. If you start by getting the ball rolling by just starting as a hobby baker and then selling them for a few dollars and then working backwards, you're going to be rolling the ball in like molasses, okay? You're going to make forward progress, but it's going to be slow and it's going to be a lot of work. So my recommendation would be to take a few steps back, even if that means you're not selling any cookies so you can get your ducks in a row. It means getting a side job so you can pay for this sort of thing, or saving money from an existing job, even if it's $50 a week, to start putting it towards this business. And when you're ready to start a real business, then you have all your ducks in a row. If you're just looking to do a paid hobby, where I sell cookies whenever I have time, it's fun, I enjoy it, I don't want to take it too seriously, that is also great. But just know that that's where you are. If you're genuinely really trying to get the ball rolling and run a business and going after corporate accounts and all that kind of stuff, do yourself that justice by like building that foundation so that you can build a pyramid, as opposed to like starting it like this and going like that, where you're trying to juggle everything while you're still trying to fill orders. So what I did is I invested very heavily in my website. When I first started, I hadn't sold anything, but I knew what I wanted to do. I spent several $1,000s on it. I paid a professional graphic designer to build my logo. And before I even sold anything, the perception of my business was fantastic. I paid a professional photographer to take pictures of my product. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but it helped because any Joe Schmo that came to my website looked like I knew what I was doing. Even if I hadn't sold a single thing yet, your first impression of me would be like, this is professional, right? So I would say if you missed a couple steps, don't hesitate to pause, regroup with some of those really important things that make a difference, because we do see a lot of people working twice as hard to get forward progress because they haven't done those things.
Yep, I think that's great advice based on what we see every day. People trying to unwind things they've done or start over from scratch can be really painful. So, Monica's point: take the deep breath, take the pause if you really want to grow a business. And figure out that foundation so that you're growing the business from a solid foundation. And there's, by the way, nothing wrong with making a decision that you want to have a paid hobby and not a business, right? That is a perfectly valid decision. There are a lot of people in this business that think the be all and end all is having a retail location. Talk to the people that have had retail locations, and almost all of them will do what Monica just did, which was shake their head no.
That's not
right.
The life right there.
We were at this event maybe almost 2 years ago now, where Monica was having a conversation with a woman that had opened a three location, very successful by all external measures, bake shop. I think it was cupcakes was their specialty, if I remember correctly. Cakes. Okay. And someone else had come up and said, if you had to do it again, would you do it all the same? Would you do it the same way? And within a hundredth of a second, both Monica and this other woman said no, right? Without a hesitation.
It doesn't mean that you're going to have more business, like
right.
Profitability.
Yeah.
Your expenses are going to go up. The things that you have to manage are going to become greater, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your bottom line is going to get bigger. So if you're trying to run a profitable business, then you want to look at where those expenses are. And yeah, that wasn't why I had a store. I had a store to build for manufacturing. So I built my store and I was producing the online orders out of that store. I wasn't in a zoned retail location. I was zoned for manufacturing. So my situation's a little bit different. I did sell coffee. I did have chandeliers and it did look very modern and fabulous inside. But I feel like a lot of people become uncomfortable with saying I bake out of my own home.
Yep.
So the edible printer, like the Blue, is not a technology I knew about when I had my business. There is absolutely no reason why you can't be very successful. I used a desktop printer. I printed on sugar paper that I had a lot of challenges with. I'll say that. If I had the technology that I now know about, I could have killed it. So if you're trying to grow and you're not killing it in the edible ink printing market, then it's you. And I say that with all respect, because you can print on so many things with the Blue. Whether you don't have to, if there's too many cookies in your market, then print on other things. Don't limit yourself to just cookies, right? The versatility of those machines is amazing. And you can target a lot of different things without having to do a lot of work. Because you could run an entire business just off printed treats. The creativity that I've seen some people do is mind-blowing, right? So obviously you can embellish them with royal icing and things like that, but the ability to create a very, very successful business shouldn't be that difficult. If you put the things in place, if you have a website and you have beautiful product and you're responsive to customers and people know how to order with a little bit of marketing, it's really not as hard as I think some people make it, to be honest, given how quickly and easy you can make things. And now with 3D for cookie cutters and stuff, like Dr. Susie does a great job with complementing the cookie cutter with the shape and the image and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I want to make a comment real quick. Something that I learned just through the years, watching people make different choices, and there's no right or wrong choice in how you want your business. How you want your business should be designed on your lifestyle and the things that you're looking to do within your life. Even when I started this company, I wanted to stay very, very small at the time because my children were young, and I scaled it as my family grew up, basically, and I had less responsibilities with them. But operating a business is not necessarily where your passion may be. If you love decorating, then you need to decorate. But if your business sense isn't there, or you hate the business aspect, then operating a business may not be right for you, because you then become a business owner who decorates rather than a decorator who has a business, or works for a business. So you got to keep that in mind. And sometimes it's hard to make those choices because you really, really want it. But I know I would never want to be in the retail business because it means I have to open up a shop. And I like to come in late, and I like to work late, and my business has grown quite a bit since I started it. But it had to work within my family's lifestyle at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things to kind of just keep in mind, I think. And I forgot my other second point, but I'll tell you when I figure it out. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's really important. We had a client once that thought that they wanted to grow their business. Then we started talking business, and then she realized that's not fun anymore, and that's totally fine. So then she took a step back because she had 3 kids. She still was working part time, and she realized, you know what, that was too intense for her. But a lot of our clients actually hire us for that reason, so that we can help them with the business part. I think a lot of times we get frustrated in having a business on the areas that we're not as comfortable with, right? Like in our business, Lewis handles all the things that I'm not great at and that I also don't enjoy doing, and vice versa. So it works out well. But if there's things that frustrate you or that weigh on you because they're the not fun parts of your business, then don't hesitate to invest in yourself and your business to either learn how to do it so you're comfortable, or to hand it off to somebody so that they can take it off your plate and that you don't have to really deal with it, right? I mean, a lot of people hire bookkeepers for that reason, and CPAs and stuff. So yeah, don't hesitate to ask for help. We notice a lot of people, we really try to do it all, maybe to save money, which is a reasonable, thing. But sometimes making a little bit money and being less stressed is better than making more money and being more stressed.
And I can't say that enough. I'm a lot older than people think I am. I've been through a lot of health things because I tried to do it all, and and you can't. And life's just not nice when you try to do it all. That's why God gave us other people and the Sugar Strategists, and this whole forum that we're in here now, to share ideas and to grow and learn together, and not to take on the world. Yes, other people can do things for you. Sometimes they can do it better, and sometimes they can't, and that's okay. It's okay to let go a little bit so that you don't burn yourself out, or you don't. I mean, I had a stroke at 50 or early 50s. I mean, that should never have happened. Had I, you look back, and the things I know now, I would have changed a lot of things. And it's from taking on way too much. There's a couple people asking about the blue. And Susie, Dr. Susie, you are an enabler, but you also help a lot of people and never say no, which is a different issue. She's amazing. This woman is amazing. But for those of you who are looking at the blue printers, please just private message me. One thing that we do here, and we pride ourselves on at Icing Images, is we want to make sure that this printer is the right choice for you, not just to buy it because you can grow your business. It has to be the right timing. So definitely private message, and I will be glad to answer any questions and help you make the best choice for you. So,
yeah. So I want to say a couple of quick things. One, just as a follow-up to what Debbie just said. Icing Image is one of the few companies I've ever worked with that will just say no to someone who wants to buy their product, right? That will say, this is not the right time. You will not be happy with your purchase. You will not get the return that that you need in order to pay for this item. Now is not the right time, right? The reason that Debbie asks us to come to CookieCon last time and is having us again is so that when folks like that come and ask about the printer, we can talk to them about building their business to the point where they are ready for a printer. There aren't a lot of companies out there that will say no. Pretty much everybody else out there, go to my website, hit order, put your credit card number in. I don't know who you are or where you are or what you do, but you have the money, buy it, right? Icing Images is super different because of that. Crystal's Bake Shop asked a question regarding thriving in an oversaturated market. Crystal, everything we've been talking about up till now is the key, right? So in oversaturated markets, the vast majority of the competition out there is at best average, right? Be above average. Go after the markets that those folks don't. Don't compete for 12 cookies for an 8-year-old's birthday party. Compete for your local businesses. Be the person that can deliver an accurate logo on time, communicate clearly, have a website, use your domain, communicate by email in a professional manner. If you have to, use ChatGPT to rewrite your emails. Write the email, go to ChatGPT, put it in there and say, please make this email sound more professional, and it will spit something out that you can edit a little bit more and use, or sometimes use straight out of it, right? Be different than the competition that's out there. Be choosy. Don't go to every event that someone offers you. Ask how many other, if you make cakes, ask how many other people will be selling cakes there. If you make cookies, ask how many more dessert places there'll be. Be picky about what you do and about how you do it, and you'll stand out. We are in the DC metropolitan area. There are a million home bakers. There's multiple commercial kitchens that have bakers in them. There's a million dessert shops and bake shops, from big chains to independent shops and everything else. But at the end of the day, the cream floats to the top, right? Oversaturated markets tend to be oversaturated with average businesses. And when you stand out above and beyond as the person that is reliable, does good work, communicates well, you will thrive even in an oversaturated market. I'll get off my soapbox on that, Monica. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you covered it. Also, the thing I would challenge you, and this is challenge you with, and this is not just for you in particular because I don't know your business, but for people that are just getting into the industry. One thing you have to analyze is whether there is a viable market for what you want to offer. There isn't always a viable market for what you want to offer. Just because you make something doesn't mean that you can sell something if it was already oversaturated before you got there, right? But I think, as Louis mentioned, if it's a choice that you're making to get into that market, then there's a lot of ways that you can differentiate yourself. And they're small, but they're important, and those are the ones that Louis just mentioned. I can't tell you how many times we've bought mediocre things, just not knowing it was going to be mediocre, but just doing market research. We bought it and we'll never go back, right? And we find that a lot in a lot of different industries. It's not just food, but there's a lot of people that are okay with being okay. And if you want to differentiate yourself, then just be a little bit more extraordinary than ordinary. I do want to address, so Rachel, who just chimed in about the cookie booth and at CookieCon. So Louis and I met her at CookieCon Austin. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Rachel, but she had bought an Eddie, right, but hadn't really used it. And Louis and I must have talked to her for hours because we're like passionate about this if you can't tell. And we were talking to her about the potential for this blue machine that she was looking at. And now, I mean, she's talented with a machine, without a machine. Her work is phenomenal. Rachel, I recommend you drop your handle in the chat so people can follow you and see your work. But if anybody has questions, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, Rachel. Rachel converted before she even really started with the other machine. She realized that the blue had just so many more benefits than other products out there. And maybe she can share a little bit about why she decided to make that jump. Obviously, she's having tremendous success with it. The customer service, I think, is a big part of what differentiates Icing Images from the other businesses. Not to mention the machines themselves are fantastic. For those of you that may not know this, your blues come with a laptop and they come with live training, meaning that you're going to get on a computer and talk to somebody one on one virtually and actually be able to ask questions and talk to them, as opposed to just needing to follow some instructions or a video or something that's a little bit more generic. So they want to make sure that you succeed with your purchase, because obviously customer service for people that don't know what they're doing or don't use their machine very often or run into problems is a lot of work to maintain on their end from a customer service standpoint. So they do really strive, as Lewis mentioned, they really want to make sure that you're going to get a lot of use out of your machine, and optimize the opportunity that it creates for you.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say, I've been, I've been in the business since, oh my gosh, the first printers, they were horrible. Where people would call me up and they're like, we used to have cleaning cartridges and they were clear, they had clear liquid in it, but we found those weren't reliable long run. But customers would call up and say, my printer is not printing anything. And I finally realized they were using the cleaning cartridges. The industry has changed so much. It's crazy. But one thing that the blue brought to this industry is the ability to sell to what I call the in-between customer. The in-between customer is somebody more than I want a couple dozen cookies to I want 20,000 cookies. And nobody could fill that in between. Now we can with the blue. And there's so many people out there that want it. And yes, people are taking the 20,000 cookie orders with their blues. Not that that's the norm, but you can. And so, so when you have these larger orders, you can actually fulfill it, and be okay and not be totally going nuts and sleeping for 2 weeks and getting sick and all that stuff. You just plan it properly. And if you are a blue owner, you come to our group on Facebook, which is an amazing group, and you say, okay, I'm entertaining the thought of this 20,000 cookies and I'm nervous. Well, you should be. But there's people there who have, and they will help you. And they will give you the tips and tricks. And even with pricing and such, it's a pretty amazing group, and probably that's one of our best resources in our company is the people who actually own the printers and help one another. It's pretty awesome. So.
Yep, that's great. What else? I see.
One thing I do want to mention about Facebook, since a lot of people use Facebook. If you haven't already done this, make sure that your handle is reflected in your Facebook URL. Lewis is the IT guy, so I'm going to hand it off to him. But can you basically share how people should be changing their URL to be their name so people can find them?
Yeah, I mean, so you may know that if you create a Facebook page, a business Facebook page, it generally assigns you just a random handle. It could be a string of numbers. It just depends. The ultimate solution is if you can get the same handle across platforms, it's great. So you'll find us on Facebook /Sugar Strategist. You'll find us on Instagram at Sugar Strategist, and our website domain is sugarstrategist.com, so on and so forth, right? That makes it a lot easier for people to find you. If you can't, getting as close as possible to that is going to be key, right? So definitely spend the time to go into your page settings and change your URL from the default they provided you, so that when someone's trying to find you, then they're not trying to find you at /A9543 C as your domain, as your Facebook page. You can see Rachel put hers, and hers is /weirdo. By the way, I still love that name and think about it since we met you, Rachel. One of the questions, or one of the things that was mentioned in the chat was business lost, because a lot of bakers will do copyright images on their stuff. Yeah, that's a tough one, right? We talk to people all the time about that topic. Um, you know, some copyright owners are particularly aggressive in enforcing their copyrights. Um, Disney being one of the big ones. I am not the copyright police. But here's what I'll say: if you are doing copyright stuff, don't start posting it all over your Facebook and Instagram and advertising it and talking about what a cute Mickey Mouse you did, because you will get cease and desist letters. And after the first cease and desist letters, you start getting demand letters. We also have seen a weird correlation between people that do certain copyrighted things and all of a sudden have their local state health department coming and knocking on the door. I think sometimes copyright holders look for multiple ways to get the folks that are doing that to stop doing it. So, it's not a great idea. We know people do it all the time, but it's not a great idea. There are toppers you can buy that are licensed if you have to have a licensed thing. There are people that provide licensed images that you can use, but it's just not a great idea to try to do that. Try to do that kind of thing on your own, and yeah, you may lose business. But at the end of the day, if you're a hobbyist, it may not be a big deal. If you're a business, it can become a big deal when those lawyer letters start coming, and now you're spending money on lawyer fees to defend against some of those things. So,
Yeah, the other thing I want to add to that is your state laws if you're operating under cottage or depending on how you're operating. Just make sure that you're clear on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. We're not the police here, but we do get on a lot of calls to help people just understand what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. If you feel like you're confused about where that line is based on your state laws and you need any help, that's what we're here for. Lewis is a paralegal and he can help kind of put it in layman's terms, step by step, to break down and answer any questions you might have about whether or not you're allowed to do buttercream, whether or not you're allowed to use cream cheese, that kind of stuff. Like I said, it varies by state, but a lot of people do break the law. Again, how you use that information is your choice. But if you want to better understand that sort of thing, we can certainly help with that as well.
Let's see what else was coming in there. Anything interesting, Kelly? That's a interesting story. You're not the first one. We've heard that we mentioned Rachel earlier. Yours went down a different route. Yeah, I mean, as has been said by Rachel here, I mean, to me, the big difference between all the other vendors that are out there, sure, there are technological differences and capability differences, but this community, the community that Debbie has created, the community online in the Blue Owners group, even in the public Blue group, is really the differentiator, right? It's a true testament to talking about that saturated market. There's room for everybody, and helping somebody else out, lifting somebody else up in their business doesn't mean that you're taking business away from yourself, right? And the community that Debbie has built and that Icing Images has built truly is exceptional in this market. They're not some massive multinational corporation. For those of you that are going to be at CookieCon, go see the big guy in the markets booth and then come see the Icing Images booth and see the difference between, salespeople with clipboards trying to sell you the product and what you're going to find at the Icing Images booth, which is folks that really want to talk to you about your business and whether or not what Icing Images sells is the right fit for you, or which thing that Icing Images sells is the right fit for you. It's just a very different community, and that community support can be critical to success. People that are doing the same thing you are every day and struggling with the same things. Stacy, who's hidden in the background here, is just another key piece in that equation. Someone who understands the sort of science and tech behind these machines and is available to users. A true sort of engineering resource is rare to find with other organizations. So really really just different than everything else in the market. Just no question.
I also want to just reiterate the fact that there are other printer options besides Blue. There are some desktop options that they sell. So if you feel like you're not there yet, talk to Debbie. She can kind of tell you the differences between those different options that just print on paper, edible paper with edible ink and that sort of thing. They're a much different price point, but they're also limited in different ways. But I say all that to say, I still made a successful six-figure business out of it, and I was printing that way the entire time. So it's definitely doable. But she has also, they sell a lot of different paper options. So if you're having any issues with your papers, make sure you talk to the customer service and get a better feel for maybe what your use is, how you're using it. Maybe you don't have the right paper. Maybe you're not using Paper Potion and you need it. If you're making cakes and you're looking for draping, they have different papers for that. Between icing sheets and wafer paper and flex frost and all different kinds of things, and making lace. Icing Images offers a lot more in those categories as well. So if you haven't checked out the website, definitely check that out. And if you have any product questions and you're not sure which one to get or which one's the right fit for your needs for a project that you're working on, don't hesitate to reach out to their customer service or even the community online who has a lot of great experience as well that might be able to help with that sort of thing. Because there are a lot of people that aren't a cookier. There's a lot of bakers that do cakes and things of that nature, and they use a lot of Icing Images products for those embellishments.